Ας δούμε τώρα τι λένε και Τούρκοι αναλυτές. Δύο Τούρκοι αναλυτές επιφανείς μίλησαν στο ΣΚΑΙ. Πρόκειται για τον Καραμπεκίρα Κογιονλού, καθηγητή του Πανεπιστημίου UCLA του Λονδίνου, και τον Μευρέ Ταγίρογλου. Την Μευρέ Ταγίρογλου είναι διευθύντρια της δεξαμενής σκέψης της Ουάσιγκτον, ΠΟΜΕΤ.
Karabekir polls suggest that all outcomes could be possible on Sunday's elections. Erdogan could extend his rule into a third decade or lose the presidency and even the parliamentary majority. What is the most possible scenario for you?
I'm also following the polls, and they indicate a very close race, although Kilichdaroglu is ahead in most polls, and over the last week or so, he's been pulling apart, signifying that there's a chance that the election might be over in the first round, and that's a presidential election. In the case of the parliament, we're looking at the most realistic scenario of neither bloc, the opposition or the government bloc, achieving a majority, which would make the third bloc, which is led by the pro-HDP, a kingmaker.
It looks very 50-50 right now. It could really go either way. It's one of the most contentious elections Turkey has seen in its modern history. The latest polls have shown that the opposition candidate, Kilichdaroglu, is almost at the 50% mark as of a few days ago. So if he gets that final push and is able to get, maybe 1% more vote, then I think this Sunday it's very likely for him to win.
Definitely putting an end to a two-decade so far ruled by Erdogan is no simple task whatsoever. Some analysts say he will always find a way to stay in power. Would he accept his defeat and step down?
So that's the million-dollar question. We don't know. We'll see. And it will define Turkey's trajectory for the near and even more distant future. I think he has two paths in front of him in case of a defeat. One path is doing what Trump or Bolsonaro tried to do, that is refusing to accept the election outcomes. And in contrast to Trump and Bolsonaro, Erdogan does have more institutional power. He has more control over the security establishment, for instance. So that, I think, would be a disastrous path for Turkey. I hope he doesn't go down that path. The second path would be playing the longer game, which would be smarter. That would include accepting election defeat, stepping down, showing to the world that he is a Democrat, relinquishing his democratic credentials, but also making it virtually impossible for the opposition to govern.
He can try to dispute the results if it's a very narrow win for the opposition. He could try to say there has been some electoral fraud here and there, the vote needs to be recounted, or we have to go to a second, run-up election because the integrity of the election is in question. He could try to force those kinds of situations, but I'm very much expecting that people will come out in large numbers and protest in such a situation. And of course, Turkish police has a history of violently attacking such protesters. I think we have to be ready for that scenario this Sunday. But short of, the police shooting at protesters, for example, I find it very difficult to imagine how he could hold on to stay on power. One scenario I've heard is that he might try to pull a more Netanyahu-style strategy where he becomes an opposition leader and tries to sabotage anything that an opposition-led government is doing.
Regarding Greek-Turkish relations, many note that when it comes to the big regional tussles, Turkey's key strategic priorities are likely to remain non-flexible, no matter who wins. What is your opinion?
On the one hand, we should not expect major 180-degree structural change, partly because Kılıçdaroğlu also has constituents that overlap with some of Erdogan's constituents, ideologically at least. He has support from secular Republicans and Kurds, but also from the nationalists. We would see overnight a change in discourse because Kılıçdaroğlu both has a very different style of politics, but he also has been conducting a campaign on dialogue and unity and coming together. And I think this would make, dialogue between Greece and Turkey also easier, and that's what we've been lacking in these recent years.